I hear you want to learn about giant robots fighting on Mars, so let's dive in to how to play the ABC Warriors guide. Now, I did a Judge Dredd beginner's guide. It's going to be similar to that. Hopefully some of the rules are going to be the same. It is roughly 40 pages of core rules, so I'm going to split this into 4 videos, roughly 10 pages of video. We'll see how that goes. It can be used with Strontium Dog, Judge Dredd, not Slain, kind of, I guess. You probably could be a harder push, but it is designed to play with the other sets that have come out. So a lot of the rules is very similar. Get an overview of the game. It is a skirmish battle game for 2 or more players, with each player taking control of a small team of rebellious robots. Using this book, you obviously need the book. It includes the scenarios, the advanced rules, and profile lists to create your own robots and enemies to hunt. And then, to get started, read over the next section, the basic and core mechanics to get a handle on the game. Once you're done, play through the starter games. What do you need to play? You need 2 players. Bing bing! You also need a playing surface, a selection of ABC Warrior miniatures, a tape measure or ruler, preferably a minimum of 12 inches, assorted markers that luckily come with the game, a number of action chips and star chips, combat dice, and the 6-sided. Very straightforward, exactly like Judge Dredd, nothing new there. Your combat dice work exactly the same as Judge Dredd. You get your special, your armor, your hits, we'll cover that in the later bits. Then you also have your normal D6 dice, which also allow you to obviously roll a D3, you just half the numbers. Sometimes during the game you will be asked to do rerolls. It sounds exactly like it is. You've played a game before, I would imagine. You know how to reroll. And certain times you also get modifiers to your dice roll. You get 7 different types of markers. You get the action chip. This is used to show when a model is activated. You get a star chip, similar to the action chip, but for your better characters. Injury markers. In games of Judge Dredd, this would obviously be wounds. For robots, they're called leaks. Then you have pinned markers, but in this game they're known as metal fatigue. Get stunned results, moving fast, and the Overwatch marker. So far, very straightforward. If you played Judge Dredd or Strontium Dogs, you're good to go. Measuring, always make sure you go from base to base. Measuring from the front of the base, you finish moving at the front of your base. No gaining the extra inch, whereas shooting is done from edge of your base to the edge of your opposing base. You also have your front arcs, your left arcs, your right arcs. It's very straightforward. Base it on where the face is looking. That is your front arc. I find is the easiest way of doing it. Some models will have weapons that you can focus fire forwards, left, right, back. Some have a smaller focal point, but we'll cover that in shooting. All measuring is done in inches, like most modern war games that I know of at least. You then have a model overview, the cards, which I will show one in a minute. So let's go over a card and show off the stats a little bit better. Move, this is the model's move characteristic. It's shown by this little pair of feet and a number in inches. It obviously is 6 inches for Black Blood, which means he can move 6 inches. Straightforward. You can obviously move the full 6 inches, or you can move a distance between 0 and 6. It's up to you. Follow on, you get the shoot characteristic. Black Blood has a shoot of 4. This represents how many dice you get to roll when shooting. The more dice you roll, the more likely you are to hit. Fight, very similar to shoot, obviously close combat instead. Evade, this shows how many dice you get to roll in an attempt to try and dodge incoming fire. The more dice you have, the better you are. Obviously a lot of robots have 0, so the fact Black Blood has 2 means he's a bit more dodgy than your common robot, but if somebody has say 6, he's super fast, very hard to hit. The shield represents your resist, that represents armor, which will come up when we get to damage, and the cool of 4 represents how good your character is. It's a hard thing to explain. It's basically how well they can function under fire, or if they're a leader type character. A 4 or more allows you access to a star chip, which lets you do some special things, which we'll go over later as well. But usually you're looking at between a 1 and 5, I would imagine, in this game. 1 being very basic drones, and a 5 being a hero type character. Once your cool stats reach 0, you get knocked out of the game. So also having more cool is a good thing to have. We can then move on to the next section, which is ranged weapon stats. Each model in the game will have some form of a weapon. It's usually a close combat weapon or a long range weapon. For this section we are looking purely at long range weapons, so you think of guns, and they have 4 stats, which we can also take a look at Black Blood once again. You have range. Ooh, let's get that to zoom better. So Black Blood is armed with a PPRK burp gun. It's got a short range, a long range, dice modifiers for shooting with it, power, and special rules. And that is the basics of it. Range weapons usually fall under this type of setup. If it's a pistol, you're going to be lucky if it's got longer range than 16. A long gun, that could be a sniper rifle or just a generically long shooting rifle. And a stormer is things like machine-esque guns. Then we have close combat weapons like knives and things like this. They can also be thrown. A little bit rarer, but they can happen now and again. Range modifiers, this represents dice, and then the power of the weapon. This is used when a model actually has hit its target. Once again, we will go over all this in the shooting video. We then have a very similar close combat one. Weapon range, power, and special. Range is usually a 0 to 1 inch because you got to be in close combat. I think that is going to be it for the first video. The next video is going to be all about the game turn, so I hope you'll come back for that. And that was a very quick introduction to ABC Warriors, the miniature games. Cheers for watching.